everyone's Revsim video. We are Hotel
IceFire,
and we aim to ice out the competitors and melt the heart of our consumers. Welcome to our management team.
I'm Tiana and I'm in charge of channel management and segment distribution.
I'm Gaston and I'm in charge of Rooms Forecast.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Tomohiro.
And I'm Alicia, and we're in charge of refurbishments, services, and facilities.
I'm Daniel, I'm in charge of marketing and advertising.
The profile of IceFire. We are a 3 to 4 star upper mid-scale hotel according to STR in the city centre waterfront side, with a high level of technology, very on par with competitors in the market, with the highest occupancy being weekdays. We have 250 rooms, 50 premium and 200 standard, with the following facilities and services listed on the slides. Additionally, we had no recent refurbishments. Positioning strategy. We service mainly business customers, which explains why our demand during the weekdays was higher, but during the summer months we also worked with leisure customers. In Q1 to Q2, we attempted to target small groups and tour, and mainly focus on direct bookings. Our facilities allowed us to accommodate this. Q3 to Q4, we unexpectedly penetrated the transient market with a high number of business travellers, partially due to increased regional jet services, regional offices of legal and accounting, 2 universities, i.e. parents coming to visit, and more visitor-friendly infrastructures being put into place by the local tourism and travel sector. However, our budget did not allow us to expand into a business centre, despite some of our competitors such as the Seven Seas, Hotel Dos Virginias and Stratton Open Hotel being able to do so. Nevertheless, we try to differentiate ourselves with a value-based strategy matching the quality of our competitive set. Pricing strategy. We consistently changed our rates according to segments. However, looking at the following bar standard rate graph, our rates for standard direct were relatively stable according to our value. However, we should have followed the seasonal and market fluctuations more closely. In Q1 and Q2, we started with a competition-based strategy with price matching, surrounding and raising. However, by the end of Q2, we were already switching to a value-based strategy. In Q3 and Q4, value-based strategy as our quality, we chose value-based strategy as our quality was consistently increasing, slightly above the average market price, with raised ancillary revenue throughout investments, with guest entertainment centres bringing us the most with 463,344 and guest room internet second with 216,000 with 960. Summary of the year. Our year-to-date GOP was 37.35%, which is exceeding the owner's expectation of 25%. This is also well above the last 3 years. We were also able to reach an overall year-to-date ADR that was higher than our competitors, which will satisfy the owner who wanted an ADR which was equal to or greater. However, compared to the overall competition, we came 8th, and in terms of RGI rankings, we came 5th. Despite the steady performance decline over the 2 years prior to our takeover, the soft economy with increased competition from other cities, which was reflected in the ADR, GOP and occupancy. However, we now have an ADR of $172 on weekdays, which is an increase of $12, a GOP increase of 20.35%, and an occupancy of 63.66%, an increase of 9.5%. We can clearly see it as a buyer's market with an expectation of exceptional value at discount prices. However, upon the takeover of our hotel, retail sales, job growth, energy and equities were expected to be on the rise.
Now we will be moving on to our quarterly reports. This quarter, we had the lowest gain of revenue, profit, and GOP. We have too low of a quality and the rate we were charging, and adjustments like upgrading soft goods and minor upgrades were made. For the first 2 months, for January and February, our hotel's MPI was 95 and 90. Our occupancy rate was lower than 50%, with our ARI being 106, which meant that we were exceeding the ADR in comparison with the rest of the market. Finally, in the last month of the first quarter, we managed to balance our occupancy and ADR. Our occupancy percentage increased to 60.3%, our ARI index became 99.5, which aligned with the rest of the comp set, and this led to our RevPAR and RGI to 97.8, which is an improvement from the previous month. Now moving on to Q2. During April and May, we tried to keep our ARI, MRI at 100, aligned with the rest of the market. During April and May, our MPI was 95 and 96. Our ARI was 100 and 101. Finally, our RevPAR and RGI for May and June was 98 and 97, which meant that we were making a little bit less money in comparison with the rest of the market. However, this is where things get interesting for us. During the last month of quarter 2 in June, we saw a significant increase in our MPI occupancy from 96 in April to 99.5 in June. Our ARI went from 101 in April to 103 in June. Last but not least, our RGI in April went from 96.6 to 102.8 in June. Counterintuitively, our RGI increased, although our ADR increased compared to the rest of the market. Our occupancy rate also increased. Why is that so? This could be due to our refurbishments, upgrades in services and facilities, and an overall increase in quality. This would justify why our hotel gained more occupancy with a higher ADR, as people's willingness to pay increased along with our quality. Now I will talk about quarter 3. Quarter 3 was our best quarter for GOP growth by far. However, our total profit was hindered by growing room costs, adding to expenses amounting to over $2.5 million. During July and August, our MPI was slightly lower than our comp set at an index of 97 to 98. However, our ARI for July started at 102 and dropped to 99.4. Our actual daily rate went from 165 to 166. This indicates that in between July and August, we raised our ADR by $1, increased our occupancy, which led us to a decrease in our previous month's RevPAR index from 99.4 in July to 95.6 in August. After realizing the effects that our changes were having on the RevPAR index, we changed our ADR back to 165 in the last month of the third quarter, which ended up giving us a 70.39% occupancy rate. That's 101.7 MPI indicator. We must keep our ADR at $165 after realizing that we cannot charge more for the amount of quality our hotel currently has, or else we will get no occupancy. Therefore, our ADR at $165 remained us at a 98.9 ARI index and the best RevPAR index we have seen this quarter at 101.3. And now I will be talking about quarter 4. Although we had less total revenue than quarter 3, we incurred less expenses, which amounted to the highest net profit we ever achieved. During October, we decided to see how much occupancy we could get by raising our ADR from $165 to $167. In return, our ARI was well ahead of our comp set with an index of 103.2. However, the consequences of that resulted in a drop in occupancy rate from 70.30% to 64.9% and a drop in our MPI. At the end of the month, however, we were still able to raise our AGR from 101.3 to 102.4. We decided to take our ADR back down to $165 in November. Our MPI went back up just below 100, but our RGI stayed roughly the same. In December, we kept our ADR at $165, whereas our comp set dropped their rates to $159. Our MPI was 103.9. Our occupancy dropped compared to our comp set from 99.5 to 97.4. However, our RGI stayed roughly the same, around 102. Upon reflection, due to quarter 1 being relatively low season, we should have concentrated on the refurbishments of the rooms, especially standard, according to the guest satisfaction from last year. We chose to do constant marketing rather than increase quality.
We are now going to start the analysis, firstly addressing refurbishment services and facilities. In quarter 1, due to lack of funds, we did not undertake any major refurbishments. However, we quickly noticed our low performance on the price value map for quarter 1. Our low score is mainly due to our primary focus on matching our competitors' rates, a mistake on our part given we lacked facilities and the quality to accompany these higher prices. For this reason, we decided to perform a number of contracted cleaning services as well as soft good redos on the facilities rating the lowest in the reputation management chart. In addition, we alternated the refurbishments between premium and standard guest rooms to minimize the number of out-of-order rooms. For quarter 2, given some refurbishments take more than 1 month to complete, we witnessed a relatively small improvement in our hotel in terms of quality. We therefore decided to lower our rates in order to better reflect the quality standards of our hotel, yet we believe we would have benefited from an even larger drop in prices. This was our turning point in which we switched from a competition-based strategy to a more value-based one. In the third quarter, we finally managed to catch up with our competitors, scoring a more or less centric position on the price value map. The completed refurbishments allowed us to increase our quality standards and therefore match our rates, and we clearly realized the effectiveness of changing our price strategy. Given our steady improvement on the price value map, we decided to continue performing soft refurbishments on various facilities based on reputation management. The fourth quarter allowed us to excel in terms of quality. However, we swung back into the high price portion of the map. Our high rates are due to the fact that we didn't take seasonality into consideration, contrary to all our competitors who finished the year with relatively low prices. In terms of our services, we started off the year by investing in the main services we assumed were missing from our hotel, such as internet, minibar, and a concierge. In the later months, we further invested in a range of services. We can observe a positive correlation between the increasing offered services and our hotel's position on the price-value map.
We will now be analyzing our advertising and marketing results. For our first month of operations, we tried to add value through investing in the following marketing services: PR agency, performance benchmark service, guest response service, and hotel website. Loyalty program was purposely left for a later month as we felt it was too early and costly. For these two reasons, we implemented it in April, following 3 months of consecutive growth in occupancy. We felt that these investments were necessary in order not to fall behind competition. In fact, the guest response service assisted us multiple times in directing us in the right direction. Our initial strategy was to increase occupancy by means of heavy advertising. The advertising budget would increase every month for 5 months. By the second month, we were ranked first or second in 6 of the 9 segment channels we were targeting. However, a fall in revenue from April to May made us reassess the profitability of this method. Despite growing profits and a rebound in revenue growth, advertising was cut by $5,000, parts of which were used to refurbish facilities. We tried to forecast the most profitable segment channels by referring to the previous year's channel distribution reports. Moreover, knowing well the dependency of the advertising campaign's success on the index rating, the long-term objective was to disrupt competitors' strategic ability to capture market share through advertising. This is especially noticeable in Q4, when the advertising budget was almost doubled and number of segment channels invested in was also increased. In other words, competitors' expenditure was to be countered by an investment of the same amount plus a nominal sum, between 500 and 1,500 depending on segment attractiveness. The two tasks of the strategy were to A. Force competitors to choose between inflating advertising expense or suffering low market momentum, and B. Compensate for positions where we were not leading, for example renovation or service quality. We had a vague idea of where competition was investing, which allowed us to be flexible and precise in counteracting the competition's attempt to gain momentum. By the end of Q4, we were present in 21 out of 24 segment channels, where we were ranked first or second in 16 out of those 21. In fact, transient and discounted market penetration continued to grow steadily in the last 2 months compared to the comp set. In fact, our clients expressed their satisfaction with our advertising campaign on 2 occasions in Q4 via social media comments.
In the first quarter, occupancy rate fluctuated between weekends and weekdays. In March, weekday occupancy overtook weekend occupancy due to the fact that we lowered our rates for certain rooms on weekdays. In the second quarter, our occupancy rate was slowly on the rise. In June of the second quarter, weekend occupancy took over weekday occupancy and peaked in June at an occupancy rate of 77.15. This is due to the fact that we lowered our weekend rates. During the third quarter, weekend occupancy was still higher than weekday occupancy. In September, our total occupancy took a dive, and this continued in the fourth quarter. Our total occupancy lowered and finished at around 60.54. When comparing last year's occupancy index with this year's, we can see that we failed to match and sustain last year's occupancy. This could be due to changing our pricing strategy, as we concentrated on ADR and therefore occupancy suffered. Also because of our lack of knowledge of seasonality.
Throughout the exercise, we had a mix of different segments in which we targeted. At first, we tried to target small groups in tour, thinking that most teams would not target these segments. Therefore, it would become a niche market. Also, due to last year's guest survey by the Tourism Commission, tour had given a high value of 9 to our prices. Therefore, we created new facilities that would support these segments, such as a travel and tour desk and a concierge. We also decided that at the beginning, we would not take groups because we realized that people were putting extremely low prices for the rooms and we could never compete with those prices and make a profit. However, later we realized that we were getting a huge revenue contribution from the transient segment. As you can see on the graph, we penetrated the transient segment very well and were able to keep a relatively stable and increasing index ratio throughout the exercise. Throughout the exercise, our main source of income was from our direct channel. However, we also enlisted the help from OTAs, GDS, and wholesale in order to gain guest recognition. Based on our previous year's booking decisions, we decided to mainly focus on the direct channels. As seen on the graph, most of our booking channels remained mostly steady throughout the exercise. However, there was a small change in August when people booked less through wholesale and more through direct. Overall, we were never able to reach a high level of occupancy, which could have been because of our hard time reaching new clients and retaining clients through different channels.
For our short-term recommendations, we should focus on a yearly more general rate strategy given our best profit in quarter 3, as upon reflection we realistically just adapted as we went. In the future we should forecast more accurately. Long-term recommendations. Pay more attention to seasonal fluctuations, analyse Kaizen strategy as they were the only ones that accurately followed the seasonality of the market, however profit bosses profited more from it. Further connecting these to adjusting percentages of rooms sold through each distribution channel in accordance with seasonality.
Thank you for listening.
And happy holidays!